in the digital age. May I request for all of you to please put your hands together for a leader who has been a part of the industry for over 3 decades, with demonstrated records of success spanning a corporate career, which has truly transformed enterprises, creatively solved tough career decisions, and made sure that it leads to corporate growth. Please put your hands together as I welcome on stage Mr. Bharat Vaklu, founder and president, the Vaklu Advisory. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for sir, please.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm delighted to be here, ladies and gentlemen. It's always a pleasure to be in the midst of amazing professionals like yourself. And it's especially heartwarming to be here today because the focus of this conference is selling. Selling strategically and selling in the, and I will be speaking about selling in the digital age. So yesterday evening when I was preparing to come to Mumbai, I just tweeted out a message on my Twitter account saying that I'm looking forward to being here. And I also mentioned in that I'll be speaking about leadership competencies that are needed for the digital age. So within an hour of that tweet going out, a friend of mine calls me and says, do you really think that it's needed? We need a different kind of leadership competencies to sell in the digital age? And I said, yes, we do. And I told him a little anecdote, which I think is relevant for you as well. So I'm going to start off with that, and then I'll move on to my presentation. So you will recall that in the 50s and 60s, or even in the early 70s, you would have people bragging. I was able to sell ice to Eskimos. That's the kind of salesperson I am. Or, in Kashmir, where I come from, there is a saying that this guy is so good, he can actually induce an eagle, which by the way lays only 1 or at best 2 eggs. He can or she can induce an eagle to give away that 1 egg which they possess. And that's the kind of salesperson this individual is. Now, if you were to reflect on this statement, and it's been used to demonstrate your selling prowess for many, many decades, you would remember that if you were to do this in this age, where the digital age is completely abuzz with whatever is happening in the world, you would see instantaneously that this kind of an approach to your selling, it just wouldn't fly, because you would be called unethical. You'd be, and forget about what the social media guys might say about you. The Eskimo would first check, what is this person selling me? How is this person's reputation? Why do I need the ice? So there's a whole new world out there, and you just can't pretend not to require new competencies. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, delighted to be here once again. What I have done for today morning is I have structured my presentation in 3 parts. The first part is about the evolution of producing and selling. And I think we need to know why I'm starting with that, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. The second part is about the digital age and buying behavior. And finally, I'll be sharing with you the 10 meta competencies that all of us require to sell in the digital age. And why do I call them meta competencies? They aren't just ordinary competencies. They are really something which will push the envelope, push you to your best, and make it possible for you to be an outstanding creator and deliverer of value. So with that, let's get started. Now, before we get into the first part, which is the evolution of producing and selling, I want you to go with me on a long journey back in time. Let's go back 4,000 years. 4,000 years ago, if we were to talk about selling, people would say, what? What is that? Because selling is not something that people did 4,000 years ago. And let me explain why I say this. 4,000 years ago, the only thing that we would all be busy with, except for a very, very tiny handful, would be actually farming, husbanding chickens and cows and sheep, and we would be eking out our own existence, because there would be a lot of hard work to be done to even live a happy, healthy life, and lives were not very long. And the only time we would actually give our resources or our talent would be in situations where we would be enlisted by, let's say, the pharaoh or a king or somebody to create a magnificent public project. And by the way, even here, you would not be selling. You were asked to give your talent, your brute force, your skill, and you were in the process of engaging work, and you might have received something like food in return, bread or rice or gruel or whatever. There was no surplus. And this is really how it was. And even if you were a free man or woman, you would still be enlisted. The wall of China was built by both free men and women, and even by people who were slaves. The Ajanta Ellora caves, for instance, even those were built by free people, but they were all enlisted. So let's now move another 1,000 years ahead from that time. Now, if there were some people who had a surplus and who had the ability to seek goods, you would still need a craftsman to make them. You would need someone with the skill, the ability, and the expertise in your community to make that for you. You would not depend on some unknown person or an unknown factory somewhere. You would depend on a known individual, a craftsman, somebody who was skilled, who lived with you, whom you would see on a day-to-day basis, whom you would know for his ethical standards, whom you would recognize for the way he treats his children and his family and his wife and his mother and father. You would know this person. That person would not sell anything to you. You would go to that person if you were rich and had some surplus money, and you would entrust him with the task of making something for you, an artifact like the things that you saw just now, a shawl or a special gift for an occasion, or a spear or a sword, whatever. The important thing really is that only few people were able to buy from this guy, because he was able to make just few things, and the general population had meager resources. Affordability was an issue, and most people were involved in self-production. Surpluses were relatively unknown. And what else was happening as a result of this? You see, the person would advertise, but he had small lots. The craftsman could not make products for a mass market. He or she had to depend upon his own craft, great quality. There was a great pride in the workmanship. There was an enormous amount of commitment to doing the right thing right all the time for their customers, and making sure that you would give the best that you had. A craftsman was known by name far and wide within the community and even outside, especially if they traded. In fact, there are many historical documents and archives where you read that so-and-so, the noted craftsman who makes the best spears in India, is from this village. And for instance, you heard about the damask sword. The damask sword was made in India by a handful of craftsmen who were absolute metallurgical geniuses. And if somebody wanted to source stuff from them, they had to come to the village or send a senior emissary to get to them and really source what these guys are making. And because there was so much focus on the craft, any craftsman or craftswoman who was not able to keep his or her promise often meant that he or she had to lose her life or his life. So penal action was absolutely known, especially if the patron was a king. So how would these guys advertise? They wouldn't advertise, but there was a lot of word of mouth. The patronage of the king meant a lot. And the seal of the state given on your products, especially if you're exporting them. If you notice this picture, this is from the Mohenjo-Daro civilization. And you will see that it's a dug-out seal, which means if you put it on clay, you get a relief. And that's how the seals were used to demonstrate that the quality of these goods are absolutely top class. Now, as a result of all this, a few things happened. I wouldn't say repeat selling, but repeat buying would happen because there was trust, community, reputation, skill, and quality and pride in what you're doing. Let's move forward now to the early 20th century, late 19th century. Thanks to the Industrial Revolution, something changed. Something changed dramatically. We actually had, for the first time, we had the democratization of the production of goods. What does that mean? All along, throughout human civilization, we have been focusing on serving a very, very small niche as craftsmen. The king wanted it, a few rich noblemen wanted it, and that was it. Now, thanks to the Industrial Revolution and to the production of surpluses as a result, there is a sudden increase in the goods and services that all of us can buy. Affordability becomes something that is real. Large outputs, huge numbers of goods are produced in large factories around the globe. Now, it also means the death of craftsmanship. Why? Because craftsmanship was confined to a small community, few numbers. Here we are where work is divided itself. A skilled person is not needed to make an automobile like the Model T Ford. In 1908, the first workers of Henry Ford's factory were absolutely skillless. They had no skill at all. The only skill they had was how to till the land, how to feed chickens, how to rear pigs and goats and sheep, and they pull up from the farms and put it in the factory because Henry Ford simplified the job. He made sure that one person would do only one thing. Pick up a wheel, put it on the axle, and tighten the nut. That's all they had to do. So the point is, craftsmanship died, but goods became cheaper. When the Model T Ford was introduced in 1908, it cost a mere $1,000 to make. I'm saying mere compared to today's standards. At that time, $1,000 was a huge amount of money. Gradually, for the 13 or 14 years that Henry Ford made this car, by 1925, when this vehicle that you see on the screen was available, it cost a mere $320. Affordability was amazing. People who had never driven a car in their lives, who had never had a horse or a horse carriage, were able to drive a car. What an amazing revolution. What an amazing situation for people who were making these things. But there was a problem. The problem was, while craftsmanship declined, community trust also declined. Here was a vehicle made by some unknown people somewhere else and being sold in the remote part of America through people about whom we knew nothing. The salesman, because there were so many of these goods to be sold, the salesman became an important part of this process. You were forced to go to the remotest parts of the country, and mind you, many salespeople did what salespeople are known to do off and on. That means they would sometimes, palm off things which the customer may not have wanted, or did so in a way which is not, by today's standards, not ethical at all. And that is why, if you see from the third bullet point on this, third-party assurance also became essential, as did regulation. So when we talk about, oh my God, regulation, aa gaya hai, it's so difficult, kya karenge, the government doesn't understand, please understand where this is coming from. We have done things in the past which have made people suspicious. So we have really got a role to play in ensuring that this situation doesn't stand. Now, so as I said, why do we need salespeople? Because it became, for the first time, we had large volumes. New buyers were needed. We needed large storefronts. We needed new channels of distribution. Pricing levers were used. Advertising became more commonplace. You would advertise your products in different places because you wanted more people to buy your goods and services. So this is as far as the evolution of the production or the producing and selling phase goes. Let's move on to the next phase, which is the the digital age and buying behavior. And when we talk about the digital age, frankly speaking, it's not only the internet, although that has been a backbone to the explosion in the digital age, but mobile phones, wireless telephony, internet, and a huge world that opens up to anybody who is armed with a browser. Anybody with a mobile browser or a browser on your laptop, and you can access a brave new world out there where you're not only soaking in the information, you are actually in a position to give information out, upload files, upload images, upload comments, data. And you can not just do that, you can even buy things today. But alongside with the good that's happening in the digital age, there are also some problems. I'm sure many of you would know that in 60 seconds, barely 1 minute, we send out 16 million text messages in 60 seconds around the world. And I'm sure these are dated figures, it's probably much higher. But from my sources, I've got these figures. 16 million text messages, 4.5 million videos from YouTube are downloaded, about 450,000 tweets a minute, and it's all mind-boggling. So much information. What do you do with all this? But we'll come to that. So let's take a look and see what characterizes the digital age. So first of all, it's another inflection point. Like we had the Industrial Revolution becoming an inflection point, in the same way, the digital age and where we stand today, this is also an inflection point. Because, number one, there's absolutely valuable information going back and forth. It's instantaneous. You drop a message and there is instantaneous reactions or responses to it around the world. There's also a lot of chatter, opinions, huge amounts of data, huge terabytes, petabytes of data around the world. There is also easy access. You could be in some remote part of the world on top of Machu Picchu, and if you open your cell phone, you'll be connected to the world. It's really as simple as that. But at the same time, as I said, a lot of information, too much information is going around. Who knew that 3.5 million queries on Google alone in a minute? How many people knew that 350,000 app downloads in a minute? Huge. And I keep on telling my colleagues that this is dated. This cannot be true. It's much more than this. So another thing that's happening, the digital age is giving everybody a chance not just to buy, as I've discussed, affordability issues are no longer there, access is no longer an issue. People are commentators on what they buy. Sentiments are expressed loudly and boldly. In fact, one person, put a picture of himself with the product, and the product was so bad, he was actually kicking it. He made a short video clip of it. What do you think this does to the reputation of the maker of that company? Even though it's one person, but everyone's watching this. So influencers are sometimes put into place in order to counter these kinds of one-off situations. But the fact is, whether you like it or don't like it, this is reality. You can't do without this. If you try to pretend that you're like that ostrich which puts its head in the sand and thinks the world doesn't exist, you're living in a different universe. In this day and age, ladies and gentlemen, as marketing people, as sales people, as leaders of businesses, you not only have to be alert and aware, you've got to leverage this to advantage ethically. I keep on saying this because you can always be a peddler of fake news. And, our good friend, Mr. Donald Trump, he takes the first prize for that, for lying and sending out fake news, but that is not the standard. Please, you are, as business leaders, expected to do things with the digital media that are beneficial to society, beneficial to your company, beneficial to individuals as a whole. Now, at this stage, we need to take a little pause and see what has changed. Storefronts have changed. A craftsman setting up a small shop when he or she knew that he could attract people with a storefront. Today, you can actually sell through a bunch of cell phones. Think about it. This is not something that you can ignore. It's real. It's happening now. And as a result of this, a lot of things about the netizens, the people who use the net, who populate the net, need to be known by you. So what do these people seek? And why is it that there's such a powerful force? Because for the first time in the history of humankind, do you have a consumer who is giving an opinion? You have a consumer who is not an individual voice anymore, but thanks to the net and the digital world, they are a community, just like the community which knew the craftsman. Look at the analogy. The community that was supporting and being served by the craftsman is replaced in this day and age by a community of netizens who are connected. By the way, you should see the kind of fraternal feeling that people have on Twitter, on social media, on Instagram. Amazing, amazing fraternity. They don't know each other, they've never met. Or on Facebook. I'm part of this group, you're part of this group, we're together. It's evident. I'm sure many of you experience this. But if you go 1 or 2 years to people who are younger than you, 2 or 3 years younger, and further down to digital natives, you will be amazed at what you will see. They are an absolutely fanatical group, a community sharing the same values of openness, of truth, of no fake news, of products being good for planet Earth, products being good for humanity, products being good for kids. Don't you ever take these sentiments non-seriously or flippantly, because these are true. And this is the new community. Now, not only do they share views and they not only form a very strong and cohesive community, they discover prices. So if your company is charging a certain price in a certain market, you may be surprised to know that they know through price comparisons across diverse markets which you serve, they may actually be able to say, sorry, buddy, but your charges are 30% higher than in that market. And you have no reasons not to believe that, because it's there out in the open. You can't defend yourself from this. You have to have a very cogent reason. And it's because of information that they have at their fingertips that they also want value for money. Why am I paying so much? Why is it that you are giving me this thing when it has no use? That's why no fluff or hyperbole. They want honest suppliers. And not only that, there's something else they want. They want completely customized products for themselves. Again, go back to the analogy of the craftsman. The craftsman would customize things for you. Now, thanks to the digital age, people want ultra customization, hyper customization. They want things to be absolutely for them and them alone. And why is that? Because it's an expression of ourselves. What we wear, what we eat, what we drink, what we drive, it's all an expression of ourselves. And the net has given us a chance to express ourselves with absolute abandon. So there are people who would like you to respond with absolute commitment to their desire for personalization. But by the way, there are also very fierce critics. There will be absolutely no censorship when it comes to demolishing your reputation if you've done something inappropriate. Right now, those of you who follow Twitter or who are followers of Donald Trump's account or Melania Trump's account on Twitter, you'll be horrified to know that Melania Trump had gone to visit the detention center on the border between the US and Mexico. And she wore a cheap olive green jacket which said at the back, and must have been spray painted, "I don't care. Do you?" Oh my God. And the whole of the Twitterati is absolutely horrified. And please appreciate, if you think this is going to leave the president unharmed or it's going to not affect the White House, you're mistaken. reputations are very, very, very critical for key positions, including for companies like yourselves, for you as managers. In fact, just the other day, the Intel chief, the CEO of Intel, Brian, whatever his name is, he quit. He was having an inappropriate affair with a colleague of his in the same company. Twitterati got after him. He's out. So when we look at what netizens speak, got to be aware of this. You can't ignore this anymore. So reputations are fiercely fiercely protected also, but at the same time, when you do something wrong, they'll be critical of you. That's why there is also this whole thing about fake news and falsehood. And that is why I saw there is one agency here that calls itself your digital influencer. I'm very, very happy that you have a thing like this, but we have to appreciate in the digital world, there is no place for falsehood. And if you're caught peddling false information about your company or your product, you may get away with it today, tomorrow, but it is not a good thing to do. So that's why I'm saying when people peddle falsehood on the net, it may give you a temporary spike in your sales or in your share value, but that's not the thing. And finally, immediacy, of course, we talked about this. And there's another thing that the digital natives, the younger generation of your colleagues look for. They want the real world and they want the digital world to be seamlessly integrated. An NFC tag is a near-field tag, a near-field communication tag, NFC tags. What it really means is, supposing you buy a Sony headphone or a camera, it's embedded with what's known as an NFC tag. So you pick up your mobile phone, touch it on the camera, and all the information about the camera is on your mobile phone instantaneously. That's an NFC tag. And augmented reality, you put on those little goggles and you understand how it's going to feel if you're driving this car over a hill and how it feels and so on and so forth. So the internet and digital world have kind of created a situation where the real world and the digital world have seamlessly become blended into one, or is moving towards that. And now, unlike in the past, when you had the Industrial Revolution, selling is no longer being done through, by pushing. You're selling through customer pull. Customers get to the net, they decide on the net without any interaction with you what they want, and if they come to a storefront, they may pick up what they've already decided, because buying decisions are made predominantly on the net. They'll check your brand, they'll check your reputation, they'll check everything that you've done in the past. They'll check for reviews by others. Mind you, prior shoppers give enormous feedback. That guy who was kicking the product with his foot on the 30-second video, he had to say nothing about the company or the video or the product. It was enough. That was enough for everybody. So that's the kind of information that these people are using. They are taking decisions about what they want to buy and use before they have even met you. There's no salesperson in this whole equation. It's just the net, and it's your reputation. And it's the prior experience of other buyers who had an experience with you. Now, interestingly, when I just started my career, we would talk about, professionals have to aim at making sure that every moment of truth with the customer is top class. That's over. Every moment of truth is fine. A moment of truth meaning a situation where you interact with the customer and the response or the reaction of the customer to you. That's a moment of truth. So we would keep on talking about, the moment of truth has to be absolute top class when the CEO meets the customers. Yes, but even along the rest of the organization. Ladies and gentlemen, that is absolutely outdated. Today we talk about the customer's decision journey and the customer's acquiring journey. The whole journey has to be well managed. Not only these touch points. Now, you might actually appreciate this because many of us are into selling seamlessly, but many people don't understand this. And remember, you are not there with the customer's mobile phone to do anything. So whatever has to be done systematically through a bunch of both digital and real-time human solutions. So you control the entire decision-making journey, the entire acquisition journey from start to finish. Just one touch point or two touch points doing well in between is not okay. So there is a focus now on customer pull, and again, we are now, in a sense, coming back to the age of craftsmen, where your companies are not going to be selling en masse. You will be selling like a good craftsman with pride and truthfulness and keeping your reputation as a seller absolutely intact all the time. Okay, so this is where we stand now. And now it's time to wrap up with the 10 meta competencies. I keep on joking with my friends, and I don't mean this as a joke really, but we hear a lot about things like artificial intelligence, but even to use AI or machine learning, you need to have some intelligences yourself. Am I right? Yeah, we need to have some intelligences. So we'll start off with these 10 meta competencies. The first one is, of course, multiple intelligences we need to have. The first is emotional intelligence. The second is social intelligence, SI. Third is digital intelligence. The fourth is a term I've coined, whole-brained intelligence. And the last one is spiritual intelligence. The spiritual intelligence is something which a lot of people find unusual when I speak about it, but it's required. Don't ever forget that we, at the end of the day, are human. Spiritual beings having a human experience, and therefore, if you buy a good, it's also to feel good about it yourself, to feel fulfilled inside. Don't ever forget that. So that's the other thing. Number 2, situational awareness. You have to be a reflective practitioner, not just a doer. Reflection. Learn to understand what's happening in the world. Reflect what's going on. You've got to be a silo-breaking collaborator. I was talking to Mr. Chug here on the table, and we were having a short conversation. And he spoke about the fact that egos sometimes come in the way. Of course they do. Because we are human. And humans, unfortunately, don't appreciate that sometimes that does become a significant impediment to delivering value, creating joy and happiness and revenues for ourselves. So you've got to be a silo-breaking collaborator. You've got to be an innovative customizer. Remember, your customers today, the buyers today, want you to be like a craftsman. So innovate and customize. Do it. Think of ways to do that. You've got to be a design thinker, but who is customer-centric, putting the customer plunk in the center. And the remaining 5, you've got to discern correlation from causation. Unfortunately, what's happening is thanks to a lot of the information that we have on the net, petabytes of information, people are showing you correlations. This is connected to this, yes. But that does not mean causation. You have to have the intelligence to understand that, look, just because this is happening doesn't mean I have to worry about it. I need to look for causative levers which influence buying behavior, which influence the decision journey, which influence the acquisition journey of my customers. And therefore, mining data sensibly, including sentiment analysis. People think, what is this, sentiment analysis? Arey Baba, sentiment analysis is so important because sentiments make perception. Perceptions make reputation. You have got to deal with it. And then be decisive, be entrepreneurial, love ambiguity because you haven't seen the last of it. We are living in a world that's perpetually awash with change. You're in perpetual whitewater state. And last but not the least, simplify everything. What I'm telling you is so basic, so fundamental, it's so easy to imbibe and practice. The trouble is, it's so easy, it's difficult to do. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Honored to be here. Just to wrap up, I noticed I've picked up a few of these bookmarks, which are from my latest book called Navigating the Maze, which I'll be happy to share with you. I am a keynote speaker, a management consultant, and a leadership mentor. It's always an honor for me and my team to be of service, so if we can be of any service, just let us know. My coordinates are given here. And once again, thank you. Thank you, E.T. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention. We have about a minute or two for a few questions.
Absolutely.
I'll be glad to take them. Is that okay?
Absolutely,
Wonderful.
sir. Please.
Thank you. So please raise your hands, and I'll be glad to send the mic across, or even without the mic, we can talk. Any questions? Was this too much? Your reaction, please. Before Twitter and before social media, let us have a little reaction right now. Yes. Did it make sense to you? Do you realize why it's important now to focus on the digital media? It's important for you as sellers. Okay. There's a question from the gentleman at the back. Yes. Your name, please, sir, and your question.
Yeah. I'm Sujat from Coromandel. We are seeing a digital revolution and a lot of purchasing happening through digital media.
Yes.
Mostly now into our daily use items like clothes, food items, maybe electronics, electricals and all. How do you see this evolution of digital media into the agrarian economy, like the agri-input sales or the fertilizers? So right now, how do you see that, what is the scope and how fast it is going to take up with the farming community particularly?
See, your question is how quickly do you think this is going to make an impact on the larger economy? Well, I don't know, frankly, but I can see the trend. The trend is that it is going to be very, very influential, very, it's going to make a big difference to the way we do business. And I'll tell you why. A point that I didn't labor very much, but it was there in my presentation. Don't forget that the digital age is going to spawn a completely new set of business models to serve customers. You won't only have to depend upon the traditional models. All that will get disrupted. So when people talk about disruption, it's precisely because of this. New models of doing business will emerge and nobody knows what they're going to look like. In fact, even a look at the companies that are currently very, very highly valued. Facebook, Amazon, Google. These companies were not there 20 years ago. So lots of things are going to happen even in the future. But it's going to be, as I keep on telling my clients, it's important to remember that as humans, we will still need to eat. We can't eat bites. We need to eat food. So that will be an important part of our lives. We need love. We need engagement. These are things which will still be important. But yes, the digital age will create more efficiencies, more aggregation, and so on. Okay? Right. Anything else? Anybody else? Okay. Since time is up, ladies and gentlemen, once again, one final question. Is it okay?
Absolutely, sir.
Okay,
we'd love to have that.
I'm Madhav from Coromandel. Like in your presentation, you have told that the new generation also wants a kind of a seamless transition between digital as well as the brick and mortar.
Absolutely.
And we can see that happening in many spaces. Like if you see Lenskart, they have an outlet as well as they have got a digital platform.
Yes.
But how you think that we can differentiate in this era? Like how do we seamlessly integrate these both the versions?
One of the points that I made was you got to be a design thinker with enormous customer centricity. That will give you the answer to your question. Because the value that we create as producers, as craftsmen, can only be gauged by the end user, by the customer. There is no other way. You have to put them in the center. And the younger, the better. Today, when a 20-plus young adult buys a car, he or she doesn't look for the things that I look for. They want, okay, does this have Bluetooth? Does it have music? Does it have connectivity with the net? Can I watch this? Can I do this? Can I do hands-free? You'll be amazed at how different even our own children's generation is compared to us. I'm I'm supposed to be fairly digital savvy, but even I'm amazed. So the best answer to your question, sir, is please interact with these youngsters, these young customers of yours who will become your buyers tomorrow, and don't ignore what they tell you. And don't ignore their sentiments on the digital media, because sentiments are important to us. Sentiments are a very, very critical input for strategic selling. Okay? Thank you very much. I'm around for a little while so we can talk offline, but thank you again. Thank you for your attention.
So you've been very, very kind. And to personally thank you, sir, I'd like to invite on stage Mr. Sam Ebenezer, Project Head, ETH. Please put your hands together as we thank sir. Like he mentioned, he'll be more than happy to be of any assistance. You're welcome to contact him. Like he very rightly mentioned, generations changing. It's truly getting digital. I'd like to add here, my 3.5-year-old niece sent me an audio message on WhatsApp. I don't think I can ever even imagine a 3-year-old being digital savvy, but she did manage to send a clear message there. And I'm sure each one of us here is digitally savvy. So may I request all of you to please take out those smartphones once again. Let's have a look at them, please. And all those of you who have downloaded the app, it gives us immense pleasure that it's a way for us to connect. We're so very glad that you're already conducting meetings, making sure that it is a platform for each one of us to take conversations ahead. So the next couple of minutes, may I request all of you to please take out those smartphones, open the app, and share a little bit about what you think of our sessions that we held yesterday, what you think about Sir's session that we just conducted. So may I encourage all those of you right here, sir, please, everybody, to please open the app. Next 2 minutes, we're going to have a look at that. Let's see if we can share what your thoughts are. I'm sure our entire team will be more than happy to know how we can take this further, what your feedback is so far. So may I request all of you to please open the app, share your feedback with us. Next 2 minutes dedicated just to that. And I promise you, I'm going to connect with my team, see whoever submits it right away, and we have a prize coming your way. Can we have the prize here already, please? Can we have the gift voucher here? Because that's what we're going to give away right now to whichever one of you fills up the feedback form on our app. And in case any of you haven't downloaded the app, you're please welcome to do so and connect with us, the team. Each one of you are going to be on there. So our app is for Android and iOS both, the ET Sales Strategy Summit app. I'd like to request all of you to please put in your feedback there. And of course, my team is going to tell me which one of us has put it first. You can at least start, initiate it, and let's see which one of you is ready with the first feedback there. Let me also add that we are trending on Twitter, and all this is happening thanks to each and every one of you. Let's continue to do so with our hashtag ET Sales Strategy. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a day full of very interactive sessions, every one of them including panelists who've traveled from across the globe to be a part of this very special session, share with you what their sales strategy is, what works for them, and it might just work for you as well. Our next session, the panel discussion, that we'll be starting with today is the key parameters behind guarding your territory and your clients, focusing on steps where we can secure our key clients and strategies to find the loopholes, especially that your competitors can exploit. I'd like to request all of you to please put your hands together as I welcome on stage our moderator for the session, Mr. Arun Bhaskar, consulting editor, Free Press Journal. Ladies and gentlemen, someone who comes with an experience of over 37 years. He was the editor of the Express Investment Week, the executive editor at Financial Express, and associate editor at Indian Express. Please put your hands together for a man who's a journalist, an educator, a researcher, and truly somebody who is here to lead, the founder and lead mentor of AsiaConverges.com. A warm welcome to you, sir. I'd also like to request the presence of our panelists here on stage. A warm welcome to Mr. Safdar Hussain, Director, Anchor Electricals Private Limited. A round of applause for him, please. A warm welcome to Mr. Mani Rangarajan, Chief Business Officer, Housing.com. Welcome, sir. I'd also like to extend a warm welcome to Mr. Subodh Mehta, Senior Vice President, Sales and Marketing, Godrej was Manufacturing Company Limited. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause, and like we've been saying, we want every session to be very, very interactive. After the first 30 minutes, we'd like to hand over to all of you for at least 15 minutes of interactive session. Sir, all yours.
Thank you very much, and it's good to be here. When you have a panel like the one I have, each one with a wealth of experience in how to develop markets and how to make them grow, my job becomes easier. I have practically nothing to do. Okay. Now, when you have people with diverse experiences, the first problem I had was who do I ask to speak first? And I finally decided we got a person who was common to all sectors. And what's common to all sectors? Money. So we decided to look at the finance guy. And what we're going to do is, I'm going to ask a question to each of the panelists. They'll speak for 5 minutes. They can talk about anything that they've done and how they see the markets going. And after the first round is over, I'll come back for the second round of questions, and then we'll go to the audience. Okay? Can I have your views on the money markets and how do you look at the new technologies, artificial intelligence, money, good old money, which I don't need all this.
Wonderful. Thank you, Bhaskar. Thank you for initiating. I'm the lucky guy. Interestingly, 6 years back, if you had walked into a bank and asked for a personal loan, like you're a salaried customer, if you had asked for a personal loan anywhere in India, you would have taken about 8 to 10 days, 8 to 10 working days for the amount credited to your account, right? From the application that you have received till the amount has been credited to your account, assuming that it's one pass, we had all the documents at the start of the process and everything and so on. And then things have changed gradually with more process engineering and everything and now. Now you'll be surprised to know with the power of AI, the analytics, the power of artificial intelligence, the time that is required from application to the amount that has to be credited to your account is less than 12 minutes. Yes, I'm not talking about the decision, I'm not talking about the decision itself. I'm talking about the one which has been credited to your account. It's less than 12 minutes.
So 12 days to 12 minutes.
Exactly. That's the power that has been happening. Earlier you had field engineers, field data, sales agents who used to go and talk to each of the customers and had to sell it out. It was a push business. As Bharat was telling, it has become a more as a pull. The moment you go to any ATM while withdrawing the cash, you need some extra amount, apply for it, you get it credited immediately. That's the power of AI. No decision making, no people who are involved in making decisions. But just with the help of AI itself, decisions have been made based on your past history, where you had your last night dinner, who was associated with you, how much have you spent in your last credit card bill, what is your credit score, everything included has been analyzed with the power of AI. And that is where I see the change happening. And money is where everybody loves it. Thank you, Bhaskar.
Amazing. I did not know it took 12 minutes. Next time I need money, I know how to try something.
Bhaskar, I need your salary certificate for that.
Okay. After looking at the common factor, namely money, that's common to all sectors, I'd like to go to a person who represents perhaps the oldest brand in India. Something which was a household name, still is a household name. And I want to ask him how he has coped with changing times and expanded markets. Could I know from Subodh how he has worked on the golden age?
Good morning, everyone. So I think today's time, businesses are disappearing, categories are disappearing, brands also disappear. I think the brands, the companies which will consider to be the excellent in the book In Search of Excellence, few years back, I think most of them do not exist. So the definition of excellence also has changed over a period of time. For a brand like Godrej, I think that there was always a challenge. How do we reinvent ourselves? How do we renovate ourselves, not only in terms of the brand, but also in terms of the business? So I think the first important thing, I think all of you would have heard about the Godrej cupboard. It was a household name. It was a kind of a generic name for the category of cupboard. People would say Godrej Dena, or they might buy a local cupboard, but the name was still the Godrej. So I think the challenge was, what do we do? Are people going to continue to rely on Godrej brand and keep on buying a cupboard? So I'd like to give this particular example. Godrej is a large company in various business category, but this is an interesting example. So I think first thing which we believed, that let us not be very obsessed with the competitors. Let us decide to be obsessed with the customer. Let us be passionate about the customer. So first thing which comes out from there is understanding the customer in as much details and as much granularity as possible. So that would mean, understanding the business, the activities customers do, understanding the kind of pains they face, the kind of solutions they need to satisfy, to do their activities in a proper manner. Understand their changing lifestyle, changing aspirations constantly. So of course, those earlier times we would do the customer immersive studies where we'll work with the customer, stay with the customer, remain with them for 24 hours to understand what are the activities they are doing, what are the problems they are facing in day-to-day life, and how do we basically solve those problems. So I think this gives an idea. Growth somewhere from 95 to 2002, it was just not growing because the reason was this category itself was stagnant. So we couldn't have done much by focusing on the competitor, by making the cupboard even better and better and making it cheaper or cheaper. This was not the solution. The solution came from the fact that customers also implement furniture, sofa sets, kitchens, room sets. They are really satisfied with what is available in the market. Even now, the completely created by use of carpet. They would talk the design, what will come. There will be time overruns instead of 10 days. It will take 2 months. There will be cost overruns. Instead of 50,000, now it is costing 1 lakh. Carpenters will disappear somewhere in between. All kinds of problems they were facing. So obviously, it sounds quite obvious in the hindsight, though that time it was not so obvious, that I think this is the pain area for the customer. We are in household brand. Why don't we basically extend our category into the furniture? And that is how the journey into the furniture started somewhere in 15 years back. And quite interestingly, the share of the Godrej cupboards in today's Godrej Interior B2C business is actually less than 15%. So 85% actually business has come from the new categories. Had we not taken that decision, I am sure we would have disappeared by now. At least in the cupboard category, of course, Godrej name would have remained because we are there in so many categories. So that was a very interesting decision. Coming to the, fast forward and look at the current time. See, of course, customer immersive studies are very important to understand their activities, to understand the pain points, changing aspirations, and doing the brainstorming about what business, what territory of business you want to be in. And then looking at from the customer, the company lens also, what are the competencies we have, what are the competencies we can acquire, because merely trying to satisfy the customer will need a lot of things. So trying to satisfy something which requires possibly untenable investment or completely change in the organization DNA may not be possible. So look at that from a company competency lens point of view and decide on the business. Now, of course, in today's world, along with the customer immersive study, that is a digital world, I think social listening, sentiment listening, somebody talked about, these things are extremely important, which we have started doing it, to be constantly in touch with what is happening. Customer needs and aspiration change because of many reasons. First of all, the generation itself changes. So now Generation Z, millennials, they need different things, in a completely different way. They have completely different expectations. And secondly, you also learn from the other categories. So other categories, say apparels or even the small items online, customer needs whether my eyes are being packed when I'm going. And somebody talked about the personalized. I think one interesting thing comes to my mind of Mr. C.K. Prahlad, C.K. Prahlad. He said this about 15 years back, that if N is the number of people in a segment, see earlier the segments will be big, a segment will be like having crores of people. He said in future, number of in the segment after 15 each you understand and try to satisfy the need, and you don't try to satisfy the needs of possibly 1,000 people with the same business construct, with the same value delivery. You actually deliver to that specific person, and how true actually that thing has happened. Now you try to understand an individual customer and try to satisfy his needs, specific needs which might be quite different for a person next door or the other person. So I think the personalization in today's world has become extremely important. That is what we are also trying to do in furniture. So this is, I think, one very important part which we have to look at. The second point with respect to competitor versus customer, of course, having decided with business you are, I think again the theory that you need to be customer obsessive first and then competitor obsessive again works here. Need to really figure it out what customer wants and try to satisfy that need. And if you can deliver the highest value to the customer, which is really when customer at the then I think kind of destroy. But you focusing on the competitive process, really understand the problem. But if you become about the company, you become kind of a follower. Because in the furniture segment, now we are going to have the international players coming in. What is the choice we have? Do we copy them? Do we copy their model? Do we try to play their game and succeed? Will we succeed? No, we decided no, we are not going to play their game. We will first understand the customer, choose the kind of value delivery we want to do, and it might be quite different from the guys who are coming in, and you know whom I'm talking about, and possibly succeed in that. So that is going to be our model, and I think very soon we are going to have very interesting competitions coming from the international players, and we are quite preparing ourselves and quite confident that if we can ensure being customer obsessed, which means not only the customer practices and processes in the organization, but there has to be cultural change. The DNA of the culture, the kind of culture that the company has to change. It doesn't come by saying it again and again. It doesn't come by paying a lip service. You have to really go deep down, see that the kind of people also do the nowadays possibly annual customer plan they make. And some companies would say the annual customer plan is more important than the annual. So people make a very detailed annual customer plan. Possibly that can be a good win-win for any company. So that's all I have to say. I hope we have not taken more time than required. Thank you.
The oldest brand does deserve that. Coming from the oldest brand, let's go to the second oldest brand in this group. And this is again a brand, like Godrej was a brand for locks and covers. For several generations in India, there's another brand, Anchor. Think of switches and think it. And Anchor went through a transition a few years ago when it was acquired by a Japanese company, but still the Anchor brand remains very strong in India and it's growing into other. And
good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, being oldest doesn't guarantee success. I'm sure all of you know that and understand that. I mean, if the company's been around for 50 years or 100 years, it's necessary that it's going to survive. But there are very few companies. So there's also a product which enables a company for more than 50 years, 100 years. There's a certain DNA, a certain values that hold the company So the biggest challenge, for brands like Anchor, as well, are how do you remain relevant during the years? Over the course of years, how do you not become stale? Everything tends to become stale. How do you remain relevant and to the generation which is coming up? And that's the biggest challenge which Anchor has today. That how the generation now is very tech savvy, wants a lot of innovation. How do you keep your brand relevant to this generation? But today, no longer, we believe that anyone who is below the age of 40 no longer is Anchor amongst their consideration set. And that's the biggest challenge for us. So post-acquisition by Panasonic in 2007, we set out 3 courses of how do we ensure Anchor's growth. One was, of course, market penetration. That means how do we spread ourselves across the depth of the market. And second was, how do we ensure that the trade, which has been selling Anchor switches for so many years, for 5 decades, how do you make them sell all the products? And third was, how do you create a brand saliency, which is basically making it modern, contemporary, innovative, and so on. In this journey, a lot of IT has been used. Obviously, there's a lot of data which is available through our transactional information. But the question is, how do you use this information to take the right steps? So right from the crunching of the transactional data about the sales happening across various countries, we identified the blind spots where we ought to be present, but we are not present. So using indices like astronomy indices for market potential value, we found out markets where the potential to sell, but we were not selling directly. So we identified those blind spots, set up our offices, set up our distribution, and filled up those blind spots. We found out counters were selling only switches, and year by year, we looked at they start selling other products. So, I don't know if many of you, even today, may not know that Anchor is not just switches. We are into switchgear, we are into lighting, we are into fans, we are into wires, we are into solar business. So all these businesses, we started entrenching in the channel one by one through the help of information which is getting churned out. And also, it was very important that we take the share because in the switches we are clearly market leaders, but in the other categories we are not. We may be number 4, number 5, number 6. Now, how do you track that you're progressing in the market? So we started tracking our secondary sales people right from the each day when they start the day. Their activities are all tracked. Where are they visiting? What have they noted down in terms of our share of business in the retail outlets vis-a-vis that of competition? And then we take the necessary steps, what we have to in terms of schemes, in terms of promotional material, to make sure that this our share of countering keeps increasing. So there's a lot of technology at play here. Now in terms of creating a brand salience, of course, advertising is the obvious way of doing that, but it's not just the above-the-line advertising which helps. So there's a lot of activities which have happened at the ground level, which is actually directed at the influencers. So influencers are people like electrician is an influencer. He's a big influencer in decision making when it comes to electrical products. So influencing the electricals, holding seminars, educating them about our products and its unique features, the contractors, the architects, the consultants, the entire, the ecosphere of this business. We spoke to. It's very important to keep a constant communication. And that's how we created constant, support for the brand. Of course, in addition to that, what we also did was we realized that Anchor is a mass brand. So we need a brand which sits at the niche segment of the market. It becomes a value brand, and we launched Panasonic brand in each and every product category. Right? So if you have an Anchor switch, we also have a Panasonic switch. So if someone who's looking at a more expensive, more technically superior product, then he goes into Panasonic. So this is what we've been doing across the years, which has ensured our growth and our relevance in the market. And going further, of course, we're using technology in our products. We see the future where in the next, I don't know, it will be 10 years, 15 years, there will be perhaps no switches. There may not be switches required. There may not be any wires required. Because everything is going on the net. All you need is a plug. And that plug has got control over the cloud. And I can use a mobile phone to switch off or switch on the lights. Right? So that's it's coming. It's not very far. So we ourselves are taking a step and trying to develop.
Thank you very much. We now go to the last segment in the panel, which represents perhaps the biggest investment decision a normal man makes, buying a house. And typically, anyone who's bought a house or is planning to buy a house doesn't always go to the net, doesn't always trust a broker, doesn't always trust a builder, and yet he goes back to the net once again to check out. And in the market, can I ask money how is in housing?
Sure. I'm honored to be with all of you. So to those of us who know what housing does, we in the marketplace broadly we connect people who are either interested in buying a house, people buying a house, or willing to rent a house. So we look at our customer segment on the supply side. We have developers which range to tier B and tier C developers. It could be individuals who want to rent a house, or it could be brokers. On the user side, broadly the audience tends to be people from across the world, and non-resident Indians comprise about 18 to 20% of our traffic base. One of the things which I realized very early on in my experience with housing.com is that you have to be very true to what your core values are, right? So as a company, you define what your values are. And we defined our values to be adding value to both sides of the equation, people who are out there to sell and people who are out there to buy. Second is building a lot of trust in our user community, because buying a home is usually once in a lifetime decision for a lot of us. And the third is being very transparent, right? Because when you're making such a decision, you want to be fully transparent to your users. The second thing which is very important to define is, what is your brand represent? What are your brand values? And till date, I don't think we have ever compromised our brand values with it, and we have left money on the table. Just to give you an example, right? So today the attention span of the user is pretty less, and about 60 to 70% of our traffic comes into mobile. And in mobile, the time it takes to load the page is probably the most defining factor. For every incremental second you take to load a page and show the user, you tend to lose about 10% of the users. So you have to then define what you want the user engagement to be like and structure your website accordingly. So there are developers who offer to pay lots of money. You should showcase what the user going to the person and we will not do that simply compromises the experience. Once you lose a user, once you lose a, it's awfully difficult to get that person back. In a case of a home buying, right, the engagement level of users are not very high. So typically, lifetime value of the user is for a 3 to 4 month time frame, right? So it's not like an Amazon or a cart. Lifetime value is a few years or maybe even longer. So you're constantly having to acquire new users, and that gets expensive. So it's very important to kind of retain your user base so that you don't have to spend money and time acquiring a user base constantly. You got to keep that in mind. Then there's when it comes to who your key customers are, which is of this panel discussion. I think key customers to me do not mean necessarily the largest consumer, right? Let's take the developer, for example. So what you got to do in analyzing your core competencies and your capabilities is to kind of define what do you want your business to look like 3 to 5 years from now, right? So, for example, in our case, we launched our broker products last year, and currently the revenue mix is about 75-25, right? And we want the revenue mix to be around 60%, 40%, because we do not want to be reliant excessively on one consumer segment. And for us, the broker segment is important because it kind of insulates you in the case of a downturn. So that kind of says to us that, we have to build a huge customer base in retail. And so you got to align your resources accordingly. So that's one. The second thing which is important is, what are your core capabilities? Where is the going, right? So some of the largest customers had 2 years ago are not our customers because there is some amount of consolidation and to be extremely watchful of what's in the industry. You have to understand who you want your key customers to be, what business are they in today, and how is their business going to be a few years from now. And you got to be very honest and transparent with your customers. There are times when I walked away from deals with developers because we simply did not have the capabilities to kind of execute and deliver value, right? The market now today is, if I can use a term, almost like hyper-competitive. We're seeing a lot of competition from other classifieds portals as well. And we are also seeing the emergence of Facebook and Google, right? So today, a lot of things that we can do for developers, some of those developers can execute in Facebook. So you very, very careful of picking where you choose. The other thing which is important for my experience, kind of figure system, right? And where do you fit the ecosystem? That's a very, very important thing to do, right? Prior to moving to the internet, I used to be a banker with Citibank, and one of the things we did at Citibank was we realized that we used to divide our customers into 4 segments, like Zone 1 to Zone 4, and Zone 1 where we were almost the sole bankers to the customer, and we didn't want to be in that position because if the customer needed money for expansion, or if there's some other thing that the bank could not fulfill, then effectively you're putting the customer at risk. So in effect, there are a lot of factors that you kind of need to consider when you're working with customers and when you define what your key customers are. The other thing which we did was we kind of drew the entire value chain, for not only our user base, which are the consumers, but also for the developer and the broker base. And we said, what are the touch points in the value chain that we're doing? And what are the touch points that our competitors have? And how can we move up the value chain? So just to give you an example, right? So typically, developers work with portals such as us and 99 Acres and Magic Bricks when they launch a project and they want us to do project marketing and aggregate demand for them. But then we said, how do we help developers launch a project, right? So we built a company called Data Labs, which does a lot of data analytics. So Data Labs is a repository of all inventory across the country. And so we can tell a developer, how his competitors are doing in the market, who's buying, and what sells in the market and what doesn't sell. So we packaged this data analytics product, And so today we work with developers even prior to launch. So there are developers who come and tell us, come and ask us, in Mumbai, where should I launch my project? And in some cases, we also do intelligent online data mining, which helps developers even set a price for the project. So you constantly have to think about leading with value, right? There is no hope about leading with discounts. Like a lot of salespeople, for example, send me approvals for discounts. And in most cases, I tend to reject them because it's always important to lead with product and value. And the best thing which kind of reflects the value you're adding to your customers is the price that they're paying for the product. So if you start discounting your price, you're not only you're compromising your market position, but it also means that you're not adding enough value to your customer base.
Thanks. Okay, just a couple of more questions to the panelists. Safdar, you mentioned that you have now managed to reduce the time taken to process a loan from 12 days to 12 minutes.
Right.
Okay. Now, what are your default rates using artificial intelligence, AI?
Okay. Of course, there are defaults. Not deny that. Even tomorrow, if anyone like Subodh, Dinesh, anybody walks in, maybe Subodh has a fantastic financial history. He's been paid accordingly and everything and so on. And he's been in this business. He knows well known his credit card. He pays his credit card on time, good credit score, history and everything. What AI cannot do is, as I said to you, Bhaskar, earlier, the intention.
The intent. Yes.
The intent. Now, if you have an intent that, okay, I'm not going to pay this amount, that's still difficult to decipher using AI, trust me. I tried using a lot of data mining. I was being challenged by one of my board of directors saying that, could you please tell me what is the probability that this large business house is going to default? They had a great credit history. They have been paying on time. The limits have been well established. The collaterals are there. In spite of that, then we came up with a concept of something called trust score. Not credit score, but it's called trust score. What we did is we started seeing every senior executive's social profile. Where that person is going around, what is his movements are all about. And these are all publicly available data. Let me tell you, it was nothing, I had to put a spy or anything on that, nor an agent to follow up anything. It was just pure public data. Before coming, I said to you, Bhaskar, I have seen your papers, I have seen your presentations, the classes that you have conducted everywhere before meeting you in person.
It's dangerous.
So we started a concept called a trust score, specifically to handle the defaults which cannot be obtained only by his financial statements. Okay. So what we did is the model was built in such a way that 70% is based on his credit history and the model that scores out, and 30% was on something called trust score. This was one of the attempts that we happened to do, and that has drastically reduced the default rate. So the kind of interaction, the number of likes, number of places that he visited, I don't want to disclose much of information, but anybody in person, I can share with you the concept of the trust score that had a 30% weightage on his social profile, whom is he meeting, what is he doing, combined with his financial scorecard, and then go for it. That's the way we managed our defaults.
Brilliant. Next time I'll be more careful of what I tell you. Okay.
Thank you, Bhaskar.
Thank you very much. Okay. Couple of more questions. Godrej was in cupboards, has moved to furniture. Locks remains one of your key business activities. Okay. How do you diversify in a market where locks themselves are changing?
Yeah, so again, I think the fundamentals remain same. One, of course, if you're very clear that locks are going to be used in future also, so you remain in locks business, but the nature and the type of locks will change completely So obviously Godrej has diversified into digital locks, which can be opened now with the thumb impression, which can be opened with your retina, and possibly, any kind of modern opening system which you'd like to use, apart from of course, the keyboard. So that has been done as far as with respect to locks category. Second important thing happened that in aesthetics also the locks are changing their shape and sizes. People are getting more decor conscious, more aesthetic conscious. So there was an attempt to improve the locks aesthetics when the customer is buying it along with the package, as well as when it is actually fitted onto the door. Now that's about only lock category. Now of course various new categories which Godrej has already entered into as far as the locks alone are concerned, locks division is concerned. So they've gone into the door fittings, they've gone into the kitchen accessories. So like this, you keep understanding the customer, what are their needs which are unmet, where the pain points are there, and whether the adjacency to your current business is there. I talked about the company competency, so you need to look at that adjacency to your current business also, and you can diversify. Apart from that, the interesting example I'd like to give you of a security equipment, which happens to be a different division, but people possibly understand it's same. The physical security business is coming down. So they moved into an electronic security business, which would mean that they started looking into the house, the individual residence security, and they've come out with huge number of products like video door phones, and which are connected to the possibly police station number, and also connected it to mobile. So if anybody is trying to enter the house without a proper key, the SMS will come to your mobile immediately, Similarly, you have got an electronic safe.
So it wants a police station also?
Yeah, it goes to the police station, and one call goes to you, the central person which is based at a particular place in that territory. It goes to the police station also. So there is a now collaboration happening with the police department also to make sure that this information is received by them, responded by them, and so that you keep hearing about, just there was a news that elderly couple met sort of with an unfortunate robbery attempt and also their life. So I think we need to be relevant, and we have got now a lot of solutions even for the elderly couples as how do we basically secure their complete house, which includes also the CCTV camera, etc. So even if it's not a security issue, suppose they need some help, there is something which is happening with respect to health which is very sudden, so how do we take care of? So as long as you are able to be in tune with the customer needs, I think possibly we can solve any problem.
Okay. I won't ask any more questions here because I can see that I have very little time left. I'd like to spend the remaining time letting the audience ask us questions. Raise your hands, point to the person you want to ask the question to, mention your name, and keep your questions brief. Anyone with questions? No? Any questions? Yes, I can see someone there. Your name? The person you're asking the question to.
Yeah, my name is Jadid Ojha. I represent Saint Gobain, India. My question is to both Dinesh and Subodh. In terms of your customer segmentation, we talk about this concept called value proposition, profitable customer, non-profitable customers. While we talk about it, we are not able to see in most of the companies. And finally, it ends up at price with most of the customers. So how do you look at this segmentation and approach towards a profitable and a non-profitable customer for your company?
No, so I think it's important to maintain both kind of customers. So today for a manufacturing organization, it's very important to utilize its capacity, right? So you might have a set of products which are kind of for mass consumption, where the value derived out of the customer in terms of the margins may be very low. But that's very important for you to ensure that your fixed costs get apportioned over that volume. And at the same time, then you have a set of product which you are having in the niche segment, where the volumes that you sell is low, but your margins are very high, and that's where your profit comes from. So I think that's the balance you have to create.
So I will possibly, second what he said. Sometimes, see, you must have a segmentation with respect to profitable customers or profitable categories. In B2C, the profitable part of the category, that is profitable SKU, stock keeping unit or the models, versus non-profitable models at SKU, right? So one issue with the manufacturing guys is always there. So we use a variable costing approach also. As long as you are able to take care of the variable cost of that particular SKU, which means the cost of production and transportation, and it is contributing to the overhead, may not be fully, but even is partly, I think it may make sense to keep that particular model SKU, continue to remain in your product portfolio, because at times you have to get the economies of scale in the manufacturing as well as transportation, so you have to do that. Coming to the B2B side, of course, this concept becomes extremely important in terms of profitable customer and non-profitable customer. So I think the resource allocation can be done in this particular manner. You try to reduce the kind of customer experience you are giving to the unprofitable customer, but you still serve them. You calculate the cost of serving them, do a cost analysis, value engineering, and look at that. How can we serve this customer by reducing the cost of servicing it to them? Still you keep them, because these unprofitable customers can become profitable. They might get into the expansion mode, and then you will regret if you do not maintain a relationship. And of course, profitable customer, everybody would like to serve. But I think it is important to keep looking at them both, so that, from future perspective, also from the perspective of utilizing the manufacturing capacity or any other infrastructure which has costed you something.
Thank you. Any other question? Yes, please. I'll take just one more question after this one.
Yeah, my question is for Safdar Hussain. So you mentioned about the trust score.
Yes.
And that's getting a 30% weightage. Now, my question is that the Bureau has been there around and that's been the primary mode of decision. So on social, there's a lot of engineering possible, right? People can create a lot of influencing statements.
Absolutely.
Which can really lead you to... So how's been your feedback on the portfolio which has come in through the matrix of credit underwriting, through a Bureau score and trust? Second, is this being leveraged only for onboarding, or is this an ongoing thing, so that if there are early indicators you get on the behavior of the person, then you can curtail loss?
Right. Thank you so much. I'll try to answer the second question first. It is an ongoing process. Like, the scorecard gets reflected every day, or probably every week, and so on. And that's the beauty about having a proper modeling in place and so on, where you get the trust score, unlike a credit rating, credit score. From the credit bureau, you get one score, and it has been reflected once in a month. The reflection happens, the refresh happens once in a month. Whereas the trust score happens on a daily basis. And that is the beauty about how the modeling works. For example, Safdar Hussain's trust score is somewhere between X to X, from 0 to 100, 100 being very trustworthful and 0 means not trustworthful. Just giving you an example to explain you the range and so on. So it's an ongoing process and so on. So that we don't go behind the static model, but the dynamic model at the time of so. Coming to the first question, it's a very interesting question where you say that you can identify what if I create my own profile, I delete my old profile and create a new profile. I have been telling that, I have got from this company a job, this so and something. So we have a component called a fake news identification, where we come to know that the timing of that tweet itself, when it was being created, you see a pattern in a kind of social media. Supposedly, if he tries to fool a bank, or a financial institute, if he starts creating from past 1 week, we see a kind of a trend that has been observed. It's not that, okay, chalo bhai, he got 10 likes, 50 likes. He has been telling that he's got a lottery ticket, he's got something else. He has sold a property at so-and-so location or something, whether he has got something, a raffle draw, he has won some prize. It's not just that movement. You see a tracking record and you see when is the spike. Just before applying for the loan, if you see the spike, then it is, we give a low weightage for that. So typically, if your technical people are here, some people are the Rohit is here and everything, we used a very hardcore fake news detection using a concept called recurrent neural network. It's an artificial intelligence algorithm. It's a two-way algorithm that we use, both encoder and decoder, using a concept called LSTM, and it's called deep learning models have been used for that. I hope it answers, Naja.
I'll just take one more question before they boot me out. Any question?
Hi, I'm Shilpi.
Yes.
My question is for all the panelists. The question that we've been, the thing about AI that we're talking about, in relevance to India, India is 69% still rural. So how does AI work in the urban market versus rural market? And I'm sure your systems will be very different to actually track customers in the urban area and the rural market. Just wanted to understand that.
I love you for this, Shilpi, for asking this question.
Thank you.
I wish if there was no time given, I would have spoken for another 15 minutes. The power of AI is not just in the urban market, not for the consumers or the middle income group, but specifically even for the rural. As a research student at IIT, I continue to study at IIT Hyderabad, doing my doctorate. I see that there is a huge, huge value in the rural area, specifically in the education sector. For the first time, I need to thank the government of Telangana for giving us the opportunity. We were able to predict at what given or event or occasion of a student's life, he or she drops out from the school. That has been specifically extremely helpful. We would able to get the attributes or indicators from the behavior of a student and from a principal, stating that at that Sangareddy school, that government school of Sangareddy, which is there in Telangana, what is the drop rate happening at that moment in time and what actions that need to be performed? That's one example. I wish to talk more on that, but keeping the time in factor. Thank you for raising this question here.
I told you it's dangerous. Anyway, but thank you very much. These are questions that you can ask and ask and ask, and there's so many fascinating stories. Each one of them has to tell about his product, his market, and how they tackled a certain situation. But time is time. And thank you very much, my panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
As I thank Mr. Bhaskar for moderating the sessions and, of course, the panelists for sharing their views, may I once again request Mr. Ebenezer, please join us on stage to personally thank them with a token of our appreciation. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for our moderator and our panelists here. We're so very glad that they could join us. Like Mr. Bhaskar just mentioned, that there are so many more conversations that they'd like to take further. I'm sure the networking breaks are going to give us all an opportunity to connect with them and to take these conversations and dialogues further. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to share with you that our travel partner, Skills Travels, has very, very kindly given a voucher worth 10,000 rupees for travel across India or internationally, and we shall be taking out the winner's name post-lunch. So I'd once again like to request all of you to please fill up those feedback forms on the app. Our team has also shared the feedback form with each one of you right here, so we'd really appreciate if you can share what you think about the various panelists, the various sessions. As I once again thank all our panelists right here on stage, I'd like to remind each and every one of you that we are looking forward to having a look at your tweets using our hashtag ET Sales Strategy right here and on your roundtables too. So once again, I'd like to encourage all of you to please be very, very active there. Of course, we have some fantastic gift vouchers coming your way a little later, and a travel voucher by Skills Travel, which we shall be taking out post-lunch. For now, ladies and gentlemen, our next segment, the future of retail, something that each one of us is connected with, making next-gen tech work for solving current problems, developing our future business models powered by tech. I'd like to request all of you to please put your hands together as I welcome on stage Mr. Lalit Hisse, CEO and co-founder, Bizom. Ladies and gentlemen, Bizom Bizom, of course, being at the forefront of digital sales transformation in the country, helping over 200 enterprises achieve data-driven transformation via automation and analytics. Please put your hands together for the man who comes with an experience of over 17 years and has made over 150 products. Please put your hands together for Mr. Lalit Phise, CEO and co-founder, Bizom. I'd like to request all our guests at the back end of the hall to please join us up front. I'm sure sir would love to have all of you up close and personal. So gentlemen, ladies at the back end, we don't want backbenchers, do we? Come on. May I request all of you to please take the first few seats available? Everyone at the back end, the last table. May I request you to please move towards the first table, gentlemen? Gentleman in the blue jacket. It's a fantastic jacket. May I urge you to please join us ahead? Mr. Phise is going to be a spectacular speaker. Isn't it, sir?
Yes.
All yours.
Thank you so much. Right. So, hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Lalit Phise. I am the CEO and co-founder of Bizom. To be brutally honest, I am not a sales guy at all. So, talking at a sales strategy summit is not something that comes very naturally to me. I am a lifetime geek. I have been coding for the last 20 years. So I can talk about technology possibly for another 2 hours, but talking about sales is very, very tough. So I was wondering, why would I be called to speak on such a forum and people who are such leaders in sales and strategies about them? That's when I realized, yesterday we had a speaker called Manish from HRI. Among our audience, there are many other people like Vipin from Capital Foods. We had Unnikannan from Hell Beverages. All of these, and thanks to all of these, and 300 more of such customers who have derived quantifiable outcomes in terms of increase in sales, reduction in cost, increase in availability, using the digital transformation of your supply chain, sales teams, and retail in Bizom, is possibly the reason why they think that it's a good idea for me to talk to a bunch of great sales guys about future of retail. So, future of retail, right? Last time in a conference when I talked about future of retail, I got an interesting question, philosophical question from the audience, asking, are machines taking over the world? How many of you think machines are taking over the world? Anybody who thinks machines are taking over the world or not thinking? Yeah, my fellow technologists for sure. Yeah. So, and that question got me thinking, right? And I was thinking, what does it really mean? Interesting fact, right? How many of us wear spectacles? Yeah, almost half of us, maybe more. We are surrounded by people, right, who wear things like spectacles or hearing aids. If you're aware about a concept of cyborg, right, a cyborg is a creature which is half human, half machine. Or let's call it, for simplicity, partial human and partial machine. Now, we are surrounded by people, humans, who are using machines like spectacles, like hearing aids, like pacemakers in your heart, prosthetics, even something like smartwatches. So the interesting realization for me individually, that we are surrounded by cyborgs, right? Which means machines have already, to some extent, won. And it's not happening today, it's been happening for the last 200 years, right? So future of the world is surely going to be about machines. And since we are already in the age, it's best that we accept it and then move on with that realization that we are in the age of cyborgs. And some of us, including me, are already cyborgs, right? So that's the Now, let's come back to the retail part of the equation. How many of us, now this time I really need a show of hands, okay? I know you guys are waiting for tea and stuff like that, but I really need a show of hands. How many of us actually are in consumer businesses? Something that is sold through retail to end consumers in India. All right. okay, about 1/3 or maybe more of us, almost half of us, 40% of us. Can one of you tell me how many retail shops are there in India? How many retailers are there in India? Anybody? I'm sorry? Yeah, about 10 million. That's a great guess, Indranil. Anybody else? That's actually the right number, somewhere closer to that. Official data says about 15 million. That's about 1.5 crore. But obviously that includes all the juggiwalas and stuff like that, which are not counted in large enterprise calculations. How many distributors? Any guesses? There are about a million distributors. There are about 10 lakh distributors across brands in India. And there are about 8 lakh feet-on-street salesmen who sell to these retailers through these distributors, right? India is an economy of mom-and-pop retail. Retail is the largest vertical in India, and 90% of that happens through mom-and-pop, the kirana shops, like we call it. One might think that the whole online story is taking over retail in India, but nothing can be further from truth. There are only 4% of India's retail is driven by online. And by the way, that 4%, a large part of that 4%, has come at the expense of organized trade or modern trade, not at the expense of the traditional mom-and-pop kirana retail, right? There are about, there is another statistics that come to mind, that 15 million as a number is fairly interesting, because there is actually one shop per 90 people in India, right? Now, we as Bizome are present in something like 5 million of these retailers. So 1 in 3 retailers actually uses Bizome. Now, with all that data and information, our conclusion is that in near future, mom-and-pop kirana shops are not going away, at least in India, right? So our conclusion of that whole situation is saying that, look, these guys are not going away, but they are digitally transforming. Remember a time when there was a first big bazaar which was opened in India? Everybody thought that modern trade is going to kill the traditional trade. You know what happened with our Lalajis and our Subbus who are selling through these retail shops? They used to stand behind the shop and sell wares in the shop. All they did was they moved their cash counter and let consumers walk in, so that the consumers get the similar experience as a modern trade shop in their general trade kirana shop. Our entrepreneurs in these retail shops are extremely innovating, and they will continue to innovate. In a digital age, we know that these guys are actually going to become our next cyborgs. They are the ones who are going to digitally empower themselves to stay relevant even in the coming future. How is that going to happen? Now let me paint a picture for you. A kirana shop owner, right? Let's say I, as Lalit, I want to start a shop in Goregaon West. That's my aspiration in life. I open an app and say I want to open a shop. The app tells me, look Lalit, in Goregaon West, there is no pharmacy. You should open a pharmaceutical shop. By the way, opening a new pharmaceutical shop is going to need 20 lakh rupees of investment and about 1,000 square feet of retail space. And here is a connect to Abu Dhabi Bank, whom we have provided a TUS score to give you a loan for those 20 lakh rupees based on your past record of your financials, and they will help you set up that shop. By the way, you should stock these many brands, this much in OTC, this much in prescription, to generate maximum amount of rotations for you. So you as an entrepreneur will make most amount of money by setting up the shop. Now all of this information has, apart from the entrepreneurial nuance of the guy himself, actually it's enabled by data, kind of making sure that the barrier for entry for this guy is fairly low, right? So now from his mobile phone, he says, okay, great, I got 20 lakh rupees and I got all these goods that I've stocked for the shop, which is giving me most amount of ROI on my shop that I have set up. Let's say you as a consumer walk into this shop. The shop owner, me, what I do, I again open my smartphone. I say, okay, I will send you your bill. Just send me your mobile, give me your mobile number. Take your mobile number, digitally give you your bill. What do I get in return? I get your mobile number. Very valuable information. Again, my CRM, the app shows me that these are the schemes that should go to these consumers in a very micro-segmented way. These are the things that I should push to this particular consumer when he walks in again, or to increase the footfall for next time. My entire business is digitally managed through my simple smartphone. How many of you agree or disagree with this version of future of retail? How many of you disagree with this version of future of retail? Anybody who agrees with me? All right, thanks. Now for all the guys who agree with me, I have also an evidence to present. Right? So we did this experience, where we actually set up an app on the mobile devices of about 20,000 retailers in tier 2 towns like your Mysore as well as Kolhapur. Now these guys directly order from their smartphones. Now another thing that changes when it happens, when you put a power, such phenomenal digital power, in a hand of a mom and pop kirana shop owner, Lalaji or Subbu, whichever way you look at it, it cannot be served by our traditional distribution channels. Why? Because to stock right, the guy needs to be able to get deliveries just in time. A digitally empowered retailer will actually have almost infinite inventory, because whatever he orders, he gets it delivered to him quite quickly through the app. Now, how is that possible? In today's distribution system, every brand goes around building their own distribution, right? And the drop sizes for these small, micro, just-in-time kind of deliveries will not justify serving this digitally empowered retailer. So you need a new gen digital distributor who can work across the brands, combine the logistics powers to be able to deliver to this guy. We actually build a digital distributor like that. And in Mysore and Kolhapur, those 20,000 happy retailers had a lot of interesting things to say about us. Can we play a video? There is this one of these guys, I have a small video of one of these guys who actually explains his experience on working with something like a digital distribution. So the future is basically not there tomorrow. Future is already here. We migrated as fast as possible. That's going to be better. Can you please play the video? So the guy is speaking in Kannada, but there are subtitles. This guy is from Mysore.
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ, ನನ್ನ ಹೆಸರು ರವಿಕುಮಾರ್ ಅಂತ. ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಶ್ರೀರಾಮ್ಪುರದಲ್ಲಿ 5 ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ ಅಂಗಡಿ ಇಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಈಗ ನಮಗೆ ಡಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಬ್ಯೂಟರಿಂದ ಏನೇನು ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಹೊಸ ಬ್ರ್ಯಾಂಡ್ಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಬಂದಿರ್ತದೆ, ಏಜೆನ್ಸಿ ಅವರು ಈ ಕಡೆ ಬರೋದೇ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಇಂದ ನಾವೇನ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿರ್ತೀವಿ. ನಾವು ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದಾಗ ಕಸ್ಟಮರ್ಗಳು ಈಗ ಮೊದ್ಲನ್ ತರ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಯಾವ್ದೇ ನಾವು ಕೊಟ್ರು ಟೀ ಪುಡಿ ಕೇಳಿದಾಗ ಯಾವ್ದೋ ಒಂದು ಲೋಕಲ್ ಕೊಟ್ರು ತಗೊಂಡ್ ಹೋಗ್ತಿದ್ರು. ಇವಾಗ ರೆಡ್ ಲೇಬಲ್ ಬೇಕು, 3 ರೋಸಸ್ ಬೇಕು. ಈಗ ಆ ಕಂಪನಿ ಐಟಮ್ನೇ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಇವಾಗ ಯಾವ್ದು ಈಗ ಬ್ರ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಇರೋದನ್ನೇ ತಗೊಂಡ್ ಹೋಗಲ್ಲ ಯಾರನ್ನು. ಅದರಿಂದ ಎಲ್ಲ ಬೇರೆ ಕಡೆ ಹೊಟ್ಟೋಗ್ತಿದ್ರು. ಅದು ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್. ಅದರಿಂದ ಕಸ್ಟಮರ್ ಬಿಟ್ಟೋಗ್ತಿದ್ರು. ಅದರಿಂದ ನನಗೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಲಾಸ್ ಆಗ್ತಿತ್ತು. ಈಗ ಡಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಬ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಬಂದ್ಮೇಲೆ ನಮಗೆ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೈರಿ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, ರಿಟರ್ನ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಇವಾಗ ಕಸ್ಟಮರ್ ಕೇಳಿದ್ನ ನಾವು ಡಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಬ್ಯೂಟರ್ಗಳು ಬರೋ ತನಕ ಕಾಯ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು. ಈಗ ಡಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಬ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಬಂದ್ಮೇಲೆ ನಮಗೆ ಕಸ್ಟಮರ್ಗಳು ಬೆಳಿಗ್ಗೆ ಕೇಳಿದ್ನ ಸಂಜೆ ಒಳಗಡೆ ನಾವು ಆಪಲ್ಲಿ ಆರ್ಡರ್ ಹಾಕಿ ನಾವು ಸಂಜೆ ಒಳಗಡೆ ತರಿಸ್ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಡ್ಬೋದು. ಅದರಿಂದ ಕಸ್ಟಮರ್ಗಳು ನಮಗೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಬೇರೆ ಕಡೆ ಹೋಗಿ ತಗೋತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ, ನಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರನೇ ಬಂದು ತಗೋತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಡಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಬ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಬಂದ್ಮೇಲೆ ನಾನು ವ್ಯಾಪಾರ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಮೊದಲಿಗಿಂತ ಈಗ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ವ್ಯಾಪಾರ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಕಸ್ಟಮರು ಖುಷಿಯಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ನಾನು ಖುಷಿಯಾಗಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ಸ್ ಟು ಡಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಬ್ಯೂಷನ್.
Right. So while we are transforming all these mom and pop shop owners, Subbus, as cyborgs, we also build technologies to even turn somebody like distributors or even the sales executives of these consumer brands into digitally empowered, so to say, cyborgs. Please do come experience the future of retail on our booth that is right here, about knowing about all the technologies that can be utilized in your sales, distribution and retail as we go forward. I do have some time now, so if you guys have any questions about what we just discussed, please feel free to let me know. Yeah, go on. please tell me your name and organization.
Yeah, my name is Ratnesh. I represent JSW. My question is, I have seen this kind of retail like outside of Seoul station, wherein people come out and they just click on the app or they have the screen displayed. But there's a very limited set of articles which are displayed over there, mainly groceries and a couple of other vegetables or something. When you give this kind of app or this kind of digital enablement to a shopkeeper, do you think he'll have that much of time to actually place an order in that small tablet or phone that you're giving him? Because there'll be so many other things, which are moving out.
Right.
How do you manage the ecosystem in those parlance?
Absolutely. No, very, very, very relevant and very pertinent question. So one of the worries, even we had this worry, saying, okay, will these guys even have smartphones? But that's obviously sorted. Or will they have data network? Thanks to Jio, that's sorted too. But the user experience part that you asked, on average, a retailer gets about 40 visits from sales executives of variety of brands in a day, right? So he's spending 40 multiplied by, let's say, average visits last for about 5 minutes. So he, on average, is spending around 3.5 hours every day talking to sales executives of variety of brands who are trying to push him some of their wares. Now, it obviously makes him take bad business decisions, right? So because some glib salesman came and dumped some inventory on him, now his capital is stuck and his shop space is stuck. So he's actually making a bad investment decision. On top of that, he's waste time. What we have seen, at least on the places where we have digital distribution, our order rates are the highest between 8 p.m. to 6 a.m., which means the guy, instead of doing the unproductive work during the day to handle sales visits, when he reaches home, when he's watching TV, or when he's closing shop, when he's actually closing the shop, he goes around looking at the shelves. And that's when he actually says, okay, looks like I'm going to run out of this stock of this particular item, and places an immediately order for that and gets it delivered. The key to that, though, is a just-in-time kind of a delivery. Because if in a traditional system, it's a beat system, the deliveries will be once in a week or once in fortnight. That's pointless for a guy who's trying to work digitally. So if you have an ability to do a just-in-time kind of a delivery, actually getting the retailer to place order. Obviously, there are other things that we do in terms of suggested orders and kind of auto-replenishment, telling him that, okay, making it easier for him. If you look at the UX is entirely icon-based. We call it 5 Pass compliant UX, or some sort of WhatsApp level of simplicity to make sure that the guy finds it extremely interactive to do. So at least in our experience, that actually not only, so the share of shelf that we command with respect to a traditional distribution is phenomenal. It's almost 20-30% of share of shelf we migrated in a quick 6 months of time, which means he's not only finding the time, he's actually finding it better to use technology to do that. Yes, please.
Hello. Hi.
Yeah.
My name is Kanaiya. I'm from Ambuja Cement. For a retailer, this app is very useful and it will definitely improve his efficiency. But as a company, Ambuja Cement, why should I provide it to the retailer? Because he's a multi-brand retailer. He will ask me for the options of other products also.
Yeah.
So in a way, why should I create a platform where he is asking for my competitor products also?
Thank you for asking that question. It's such a beautiful question because, actually I was supposed to cover it and I forgot, and thanks for bringing up that particular point. So yes, obviously, the traditional way, since morning, speakers have been talking about how buying behavior is changing because of technology. Technology is kind of flattening the world. Traditionally, the brands had the power, based on their distribution reach, to define buying decisions of retailers and hence, to some extent, consumers as well. In today's day and world, the consumers as well as retailers, more and more technology you put in their hand, the world becomes flatter, right? So whether the brands like it or not, the retailers are surely going to migrate to something that puts the power in their own hand. Now, how as a brand we adjust? So for example, someone asked me this question while I was discussing the topic with him. He's saying, will the sales team be irrelevant in this world? Because today sales teams go to take orders from dealers. Will they now become irrelevant because the dealer is deciding order basis technology. It's not the case. The sales team actually promotes and becomes a business development team. They are more there to create white spaces where the visibility is low, the BTL spend, targeting the BTL spend properly, creating awareness among retailers among your new products. So it's far more value-added work that a sales team is needed to be done than doing this mundane work of getting and going to a retailer and taking order from each of them. That's how I visualize the brands and the sales executives' role changing as we move forward. And to be honest with you, in our experiment also, it's not the brands who push the app to the retailers. It's retailers who took up the app, and now brands actually supply through us because we are one of their key channel to reach out to tier 2 towns and class C, D, E kind of outlets. Right? So it is actually, once you put the power in the hand of retailers, everyone else has to align. That's essentially the answer to that. And one last question. I'll just take one last question and then we'll move on. Anybody else? One last question? No? Thank you so much, guys. You have been wonderful and patient just before the tea break. Thank you very much.
Sir, please give us a chance to thank you as well. Join us on stage as I request Mr. Ebenezer to join us to thank you personally with a token of our appreciation. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for him. And like he mentioned, we will be breaking for tea post this. And you're more than welcome to interact with him offline. And for any questions, query, I'm sure he'll be happy. Thank you, gentlemen. You've been very kind. And once again, as I invite all of you for a networking tea break, I'd like to request you to please join us inside the hall in the next 10 minutes so that we have more and more time for interaction. Please enjoy tea, coffee, whatever you prefer, and we look forward to knowing what your feedback has been for our various sessions and our speakers. Our team has passed on the feedback forms to you, and we'll really appreciate if you keep filling those up. And post-lunch, we shall be taking those out, and our partners, Skill Travels, have been kind enough to share with us some absolutely spectacular vouchers for your travel, which can be used in India or abroad. So let's look forward to who wins that. Once again, let me thank our partners. The event has been co-powered by MindTickle. I'd also like to thank our digital transformation partner, CloudQ, our AI sales assistant, Selena, our AI partner, Racetrack, our sales transformation partner, Bizom, our associate partner, Brandia, Salesforce, Waymo. I'd also like to thank our education partner, WeSchool, our media partner, Smart CEO, Business Economics, the CEO Magazine, and our webcast partner, Be Live. The event has been brought to you by ETH. Please enjoy tea, coffee, and we meet again in the next 10 minutes for our next session, which is a very interesting case study on sales strategy for India's most expensive residential properties.
When you're on one end of the distribution chain, it's difficult to monitor and control what's going on the other end. You don't know if your channel is pushing your focused products, whether your sales channel is visiting all retailers, who's not ordering your products, and who your influencers are. Would you like to control what's driving your sales? Introducing CloudBeat, a secondary sales automation software. CloudBeat gives you key insights on the performance of your sales team, distributors, retailers, and influencers, which enables you to make better decisions. Get your retailers to pitch your products over your competition. Increase your product range at the point of sale. Expand in newer geographies, and track and motivate your influencers. You can also actively track your field force and efficiently plan your entire sales route. Increase your sales and maximize your profits with a comprehensive visibility of your entire sales channel. CloudBeat. Plan, expand, maximize. When you're on one end of the distribution chain, it's difficult to monitor and control what's going on the other end. You don't know if your channel is pushing your focused products, whether your sales channel is visiting all retailers, who's not ordering your products, and who your influencers are. Would you like to control what's driving your sales? Introducing CloudBeat, a secondary sales automation software. CloudBeat gives you key insights on the performance of your sales team, distributors, retailers, and influencers, which enables you to make better decisions. Get your retailers to pitch your products over your competition. Increase your product range at the point of sale. Expand in newer geographies, and track and motivate your influencers. You can also actively track your field force and efficiently plan your entire sales route. Increase your sales and maximize your profits with a comprehensive visibility of your entire sales channel. CloudBeat. Plan, expand, maximize. When you're on one end of the distribution chain, it's difficult to monitor and control what's going on the other end. You don't know if your channel is pushing your focused products, whether your sales channel is visiting all retailers, who's not ordering your products, and who your influencers are. Would you like to control what's driving your sales? Introducing CloudBeat, a secondary sales automation software. CloudBeat gives you key insights on the performance of your sales team, distributors, retailers, and influencers, which enables you to make better decisions. Get your retailers to pitch your products over your competition. Increase your product range at the point of sale. Expand in newer geographies, and track and motivate your influencers. You can also actively track your field force and efficiently plan your entire sales route. Increase your sales and maximize your profits with a comprehensive visibility of your entire sales channel. CloudBeat. Plan, expand, maximize. When you're on one end of the distribution chain, it's difficult to monitor and control what's
Ladies and gentlemen, may I please request all of you to join us inside the hall. We are all set to begin.
And track and motivate your influencers. You can also actively track your field force and efficiently plan your entire sales route. Increase your sales and maximize your profits with a comprehensive visibility of your entire sales channel. CloudBeat. Plan, expand, maximize.
May I please request all our guests in the pre-function area to join us inside the hall. We are all set to begin with our next session. Ladies and gentlemen, in the pre-function area, may I please request all of you all to join us inside the hall. We are all set to begin with our next session. Thank you. Once again, may I please request our guests in the pre-function area to please join us inside the hall. Once again, may I please urge all our guests sitting at the back end of the hall to take the first few seats available, please. Welcome back. We hope you enjoyed the short break there as we move on to our next session, which is a case study on sales strategy for India's most expensive residential property, the World One project. Ladies and gentlemen, may I please request you to put your hands together for a man who comes with an experience of over 20 years across sales, marketing, operations, and general management across various industries in India and abroad. I'd like to request all of you to put your hands together as I welcome the man who has won the most promising young sales manager by the Economic Times in the year 2004 and has truly reached wherever he wanted to, a conqueror. Please put your hands together as I welcome on stage Mr. Prashant Bindal, Chief Sales Officer, Lodha Group. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause as I welcome Sir on stage to share with us further on how to make dreams come true. Sir, all yours.
Good afternoon, friends, and good that the session after a tea or a lunch is always a tough one, but hopefully I'll be able to get your attention. I've been listening to a lot of presentations since morning, and I think if I can correlate to them, a lot of them very, very pertinent points were made. I think Mr. Vaklu, when he presented in the morning, said some very, very, I think he's gone, but I think he said some very important points. The most important one was that when you are doing business or sales, the critical elements involved are how do you discern correlation from causes. That's very, very important. The second thing he talked about was mine data and sentiments as much as possible. The third one was be an entrepreneur. Fourth, we keep things simple. So that was very, very pertinent points he said. And then when I was listening to the panel discussion, Mr. Subodh Mehta, the Godrej VP, he mentioned very pertinent points. He said, be customer focused, not competition focused. And keep on evaluating yourself. And even in tough times, how do you keep evaluating yourself and your business and take the business to the next level? I think there is no better way to explain the ideas than a case study. And that is why, I would take you past through that how did we go through this process or this journey in taking the business to the next level in the luxury business. As we all know, that housing sector has been under turmoil for many years. The industry as such has not grown. And within housing, the luxury sector has faced very tough times. Whether it's the JLL report, the Knight Frank report, or even the latest GDP report suggests that housing sector has the one which has not contributed much to the GDP growth. Overall, it has been in turmoil. And within that, the luxury segment has not done well. Then how is it that we were, as a group, overall business and within the luxury segment, were able to achieve something which was different from the industry? And this I will like to show you in terms of case study. The key point comes back is there could be many ideas. There could be many thoughts, many ideas. But ultimately, it boils down to execution. I think that's the fundamental thing. Many of the organizations face with a challenge where there are a lot of idea givers, but people on the ground, what they're able to execute is very, very critical. You may have all the generals sitting there and making all the wonderful plans, but can the infantry execute those plans is very, very key. And I think if you look at this study, you will discern that a lot of things which Mr. Vaklu said about what are the causes, correlation, how do you mine the data, and what Subodhji said about consumer focus will come out very clearly on how it happened. So if you look at just a small thing about Lodha, Lodha is the largest real estate developer in India by far. We are present mainly in Bombay, but yes, we have a large business in UK and some business in Hyderabad and Pune. In Bombay, we are present all across, from Navi Mumbai to South Bombay, from 50 lakh to 50 crores. So basically, our business is divided into three parts, which is a mass business, which is value less than 1 crore. Obviously, when you are in Bombay, you feel differently because what you can get a palace for in a small town, you won't even get a shanty here. So the business starts from about 1 crore here. And then a class market, which values between 1 to 5 crore, and a luxury market, which is more than a 5 crore business. So the whole case study is about strategic insights to drive luxury sales. Now, before you do any business or anything, the first thing which, it is independent of whatever business you are in, the most critical thing is, who are you? What are you? For example, if somebody was to ask, what is Lodha? That was the first thought that we started working on, because if the industry is not doing well, if the luxury business is not doing well, first of all, we have to know what are we in for. And a typical answer I asked this question when I joined them 3 years back. I asked the team, what are we doing? What business are we in? And 99% of them answered that we are selling homes. Good, very good, that's what we are doing. But that the other developers are also doing. DLF is doing, Runwal is doing, other developers are doing in Bombay. But the industry, the business is not happening. Why is it then? What are we in for? What business are we in? And that is where we looked at, who are we? We are in the business of identifying and fulfilling consumer need of shelter and esteem. Why do we buy a house? Somebody would say security, somebody would say for children, somebody would say for living, somebody would say for investment. But when you buy a luxury house of 10 crore and above, you also want to show the world that you have arrived in life, isn't it? And most of the cases, you're already staying in a good house. It's not your first buy. So why do you want to come and buy a 10 crore house? Is it only living? No, it's beyond that. It is beyond that. It is something when the world comes to know that yes, you have arrived in life. I learned it long years back with my stint in Coke. When we were doing this product on analysis on premium drinks, the waiter used to tell me that whenever, there is a mixer, people don't even ask. But when there is a Schwarz Regal, they want the bottle to be kept on the table. Because in Bombay, there is so much money, I realized it when I started selling these products. When people come and take out a 50 crore check and give you. But when they put a Schwarz Regal on the table, they want people to know that you have arrived in life. For any other brand, they would not do it. It's a matter of esteem, self-esteem. The same thing goes there. The same thing goes there when you buy a house. And this was the thought. And the whole thing worked out was, it is all about consumer. It's all about consumer. It's not about industry, it's not about trends. There is enough money in Bombay. It's the city. It is the city. On R.K. Swamy BBDO index, it is 1,000. The next city is Delhi at 562. The ability to buy in Bombay is twice that of Delhi, 4 times that of Bangalore, 8 times that of Chennai. If we cannot sell here the luxury product, where would we sell? But there are consumers here. But do we know them? Do we understand them? And that is where the whole thought process started from. And then we arrived at, well, what are the key 3 things? And that is what we arrived at are, the 2 most important elements are consumers, the consumers who purchase. And we defined, it could be a question of semantics, a lot of them say customers, but we defined customers as somebody who source consumers for us. Now that could be internal, that could be external. And how do you use that data, immense data that we have, and the analytics and technology to integrate both the consumers and customers and get the best both of them? Now again, very easily said, but to actually do it on ground, it's very easy to say, but to do it on ground is very, very difficult. That is why what we are, the others are not. So based on this, we created a complete strategy framework for World Tower. The biggest underlying statement was that by end of 2019, World Tower as a project should give us a revenue of 2,000 crore in a year. That was the underlying statement. As an opportunity, the premier luxury opportunity in South Bombay. What were the enablers? Understand the consumer. Who is your target consumer? What are his needs? What is his segmentation? What is his demographic segmentation? What is his geographic segmentation? What is his psychographic segmentation? Get to know who is he. How does he live? I was very impressed when Subodh talked about while working for Godrej when they were developing the new business. Live with them 24 hours, understand what they do, how do they live, how do they buy, what are their habits. In luxury, imagine a 10 crore project, you have to understand them much more. Similarly, understanding customers. The customers could be internal, could be external. One who will bring the consumer to your site. How can you get the best out of those customers? And how do you use analytics and technology to get the best of the both? But the underlying result is all this should lead to profitable growth. With due respects to a lot of companies who said we have done this, but underlying fact is if you do not get a profitable growth, frankly saying it is all zero. At some stage, even the VCs who are giving you tons of money will take that money back if it is only GVAs and not profitable growth. It is not only getting the revenue, but getting the revenue with profit and underlying profit. Without profit, there is no life. If you are in business, otherwise become poets. So in terms of World Tower, again, a premium opportunity. That is what we showed to the world. It is in Worli. The best place one could have in South Bombay, iconic tower, 3 iconic towers, engagement with all the world's best brands, Armani, Ken Smith of the world's, and we have got a price ranging from villa, which is 35 crores, to a world view, which is 10 crores, average price of about 10 odd crores, but with 3 different buildings, what comprises the World Tower project. And if you can see, most of it is done. The entrance, the lobby, the private observatory, the clubhouse, everything stands for pure luxury. So in terms of, first of all, any idea, any thoughts can never do well if the product itself is not good. That's the underlying principle. So, first of all, the underlying principle, we had a very good product. The key was how to position it into consumers' mind and sell it. The product was good. The brand was good. So the most important thing was understanding consumers. Who are your TGs? Because you are selling all over the place, but the fact of the matter is resources are limited, time is limited, human resources limited. Whom to target and where to target to get the best result possible. So we looked at very clearly who are your demographic and geographic segmentation. Who buys the product? Gujaratis buy the product. North Indians buy the product. Marathis are there. Marwadis are there. Sindhis are there. Punjabis are there. Others are there. Others, Christian, Parsis, Muslims, everybody. Data is immense. So first of all, know who is buying. That is from a demographic perspective. Then, in Bombay, distance plays a very, very critical role. Where is your office? Where do you currently stay? So how many people are coming from 0 to 5 kilometers of that radius? So you draw the concentric circles and then make a strategy of what happens in 0 to 5 kilometers. What happens in 5 to 10? What happens in 10 to 15? How are people behaving from 15 to 20 kilometers? So how does the geographic segmentation play a role? How do the consumers behave differently when they come from different geographies? Then by profession. Who are the ones who are buying these products? So if you see, the top ones are the first generation business owners. Now that's very interesting. Second generation business owners, obviously they will buy, they have the money. Corporate business leaders, professionals. So, basic idea of where we are, who are the buyers. But then there was another element when you go into the detail. I have been seeing the presentation going on for this Mind Click. They're talking about influencers. I'm sure how many of you bought a house? Have you bought a house? Intend to buy a house? Asking you, sir. No? Who has bought a house? Anybody has bought a house? Anywhere? You have bought a house, sir? Where did you buy a house? Delhi. So did you go alone? Or did you take anybody along to buy? With your wife. You know, I have been in this business now for 2.5 years, and I can tell you the most important person in the purchase of a house is an influencer. Buyer may be Mr. Pillai, but ultimately, until and unless his wife decides that this is the house to be taken in, no man can ever buy a house. That has been my learning. And that shows the power of women in our business, in our society. And it is across from mass to luxury. And luxury, it is even more prominent. So influencer is the most important person. The third is, in this element, there is an element called financer. Now, who is this financer? This financer, in a typically or a Gujarati Marwadi family, is the Babji. If you look at it, most of the buyers are the first and the second generation industrialists or SMEs, where the second generation, they have been living in a joint family for years. The son gets married. The daughter-in-law wants to separate. So they want a house which is a luxury house, but with all the amenities. But of course, the son, the control is still in the hand of the father. Son may be 40 years of age. He may be so-called senior vice president or whatever. But, of course, every money is in the hand of the father. So, if he has to buy a house, father has to pay. And the influencer, and whom does he go to? He goes to his mother. So, the influencer in this case to separate out is the wife. And influencer to finance is the mother, and the actual financer is the father. Now, there could be 4 or 5 elements involved, or there could be only 2 elements involved. But in most of the luxury cases that we have seen, there are these 3 or 4 cases involved. And if you are not able to understand all of them, you cannot sell luxury. And that is why it is so important to have that kind of understanding. What does a buyer want? He has a very separate needs. Influencer has an absolutely different needs. Financer has an absolutely different needs. Within influencer, if there are 2 influencers, they have a very separate needs. And a 10 to 20 crore property will never get sold unless all come on board. And that is responsibility of us to understand what those needs are and to satisfy those needs. So how do you understand those needs? The most important thing that we did was a very, very thorough consumer research. A consumer research of who bought. Why did they buy? What did they like? What were the enablers? And what they did not like, even they bought. And most importantly, we met the people who did not buy. Why did you not buy? Was it your decision or was it your wife's decision? Why you did not buy? Or your father did not give you the money? Or even if you had the money, why? And that gave us so much of information in terms of why, what is making them click. And that is where the analytics and technology helps you. Because if you've got so many, very large scale and so much of data with you, humanly it is impossible to analyze. So when you use the big data analytics and divide those customers into various CRMs, you get to know what is the underlying data that is coming out, what is the insight that is coming out. And and I said, whatever technology may come, but the sheer factor of observation, that is the most important. What actually happens during the actual interactions? How do they behave? How many times do they actually go out? How many meetings take place to close a deal? What happened? Who got impressed in the first go? Who is the element who is playing the rogue game? Who is the element we have to impress upon? So this is very, very important. So all these three helped us to understand the consumer. And as I said, when we did the analysis, the needs were very different. Buyer, influencer, and financer. Buyer, the builder name was most important because ultimately he had to buy the son. Influencer, most important was obviously the whole face of luxury. She is not bothered about the cost. He said, it's your responsibility. I want to have a place which gives me a complete luxury feeling. The financer doesn't even care. He said, boss, payment kab deni hai? Or kitni deni hai? Imagine that number one rank is very different for all three. The builder name doesn't even lie in the top 5 of a financer or the father. He said, kuch bhi kharido, jo sabse sasta mile wo le lena. The influencer says, no, I have to have the very best. Buyer says, you fight amongst each other and decide and let me know. Look at it. The second is providing world-class amenities. The world-class amenities for the influencer is very critical. Financer, I don't even care. You give a clubhouse, I don't even care. I am staying in my 50-year-old bungalow, that's enough for me. I have all the amenities, all my friends there. But ultimately, all three, it is like that Shiva's Trishul, when he formed Tripurari, you have to combine all three, and that is why selling luxury is so difficult. All three have to combine, and you have to hit the Trishul so that all three come in the alignment. And imagine they have got such various needs. But that is where the skills come. But first of all, you should know the problem before finding the solution. Now imagine if we did not know that the needs were so different, we were treating all the three in the same manner. But the fact of the matter is that they have different needs, different aspirations, different habits. And if you treat all three, you will never be able to sell. And that was what was happening. Then what did it come out? So ultimately, I'm sorry, this slide is not clear, but ultimately finally what it came out was that ideal family with 2 kids, the parents are financiers or contributors, and most importantly we realized that was another understanding. Loan was taboo. And that is why loan is taboo? Because it is bought for what? It is bought for esteem. And if you take a loan, then where is the esteem? What will the friend say? Arey loan leke ghar liya hai. Kya bade aadmi hai? The problem is, he can't pay 10 crore but won't take loan also. And that was a difficult question. And that is where the parents have to bridge in. And sometimes even the parents bridge in, the influencer wants a 20 crore property. The parent doesn't want to pay the 10 crore. Say, tumhe ghar lena le lo, 10 wala le lo, 20 kyun lena hai? But influencer says, I don't care. I want this one because this is the most luxurious one. So understanding that this is their psychographic segmentation of how they behave. And that is why selling this is such a difficult task. Because you have to understand all three. Most important thing for us is sometimes we believe that we are like family courts, bringing all the family together. And until and unless you understand all three together, you cannot sell it. And that is where the whole understanding of the consumers, I will not go into the details of how we went about doing it, but this was the understanding. Then second is the role of the customer. Now who is the customer in our parlance? Our customer is somebody who brings the consumer to the site. Now it could be external, which are your brokers and channel partners, but most importantly our own internal customers. Within my own team, there is a loyalty team. We sell 10,000 units every year. These are the customer, and out of which luxury also sell about 500 units across luxury and class. Many of them want to upscale. So where is the loyalty team coming? There is a pre-sales team. We have a 200-member telecallers. How do we use them? Then we have an outstation team. We have offices in 5 countries. How do we use the NRI team? These are our internal customers who will source consumers for the site. And there is the external customers. And there is so much of data available. How do we mine them? How do we use them to maximize the walk-in to our site? Because unless he walks in, he won't buy. So if you look at it, that how did we get the best out of it? Because there is so much of availability, we identified who are our critical zone, who are our core zone. So if you look at it, across ethnicity, we did all kind of data mining, etc., etc. Who buys more, who buys less, where is the conversion high, where is the walk-in low, and we went through all this. This is one slide of 100-page. We went through all the mining. And then what we realized, so who is the core segment? Core segment where the walk-ins is high and conversion is high. And critical segment where either the conversion or walk-in is high, but the other part is low. Walk-in is high, conversion is low, or walk-in is low and conversion is high. So these are the 2 most important. So we arrived at who is going to be our core segment. From demographic, it is North Indians, and less than 5 kilometers everybody. They are your core segment, they will buy the maximum. And who are critical? 5 to 15 kilometers, and Sindhi and Gujaratis from demographic perspective. Who are walk-ins is high, but buy is low. So again, very separate plan for each one of them. How do you treat core? How do you treat critical? Again, these are details. But again, how do you use then technology, big data, to get the best out of it? There's so much of data. How do you mine this data? How do you arrive at those? Because data is there. But what do you make of this data? How do you mine that data to understand the nuances that will make you ultimately do the business? Because the bottom line is business. Otherwise, it's only a theory class. So, how do you increase leads? So what happens? How do you increase leads? How do you convert that lead to walk-ins and then walk-ins to conversion? So that is the whole story on how it works out. And the consumer engagement journey is not only for sourcing, it is a complete journey that opens from sourcing up to the final journey. That is how the luxury has to be treated. You just cannot sell the product and say, okay, done and dusted. They're big guys. They have to be treated differently. It is not that in mass market where we'll sell 200 units every week. In luxury, we sell 5 units every week. They have to be treated very differently. So via technology, how do we do a sourcing journey, closing journey? A complete cycle is there. How will they go about that process? And it's a very defined process which we went through after a lot of permutations and combinations. So how do you nurture the lead? How do you nurture the consumer? It's a very defined process. And ultimately, as I said, all this should lead to numbers. So what happened? Our overall growth in consumer walk-in was, imagine this was an industry which was declining. The consumer walk-in grew by 21% in critical zone. In non-critical, where we don't do anything, it was at 6% growth. But the overall, in the 26% in the critical zone. And what happened to walk-ins? Walk-ins increased to conversion to 23%. And what happened to business? 48% growth in a luxury business. This year, 2017 to 18, in this project. Imagine in an industry, in a business, which is said to be declining, we grew by 50% in this tower. And ultimately ended up doing more than 1,000 crore business. So what is the way forward? Way forward is the same. Continue to understand the consumer, the customer, and continue using the data. Keep on doing the basic things right. I think the biggest challenge the industries and the companies face is in the quest of doing new things, they forget what are the basics. If you continue with your basics, and if you have the right talent, you will never fail. So consumer, customer, and data, the plan is, hopefully, that we will have a more than 20% growth, whatever be the industry trends, whatever the competition may be doing. And imagine, we hope to do 156. And the last slide, again coming back, where did we start with our vision? If you look at it, the vision was, this was the enabler we made, that by end of 2019, we will be 2,000 crore business. This means that we have to sell in 2019 end, we have to sell 200 units. So this means if we are able to hit 156 units in the end of 2018, then we have to grow by another 20% to reach 200 units in 2019 and end up with a 2,000 crore plan. So we started in 2017 with a certain vision, a certain framework. Established Voltar as a 2,000 crore revenue generator by 2019. And we started on that path at the beginning of 2017. 2018, we did what we had to do. 2019, hopefully it is on the right path, but still long way to go. And 2018 and 2019, we hopefully grow by 20% again and achieve what we had decided. So if you look at it, it encompasses most of the things that we talk about, but the key lies in what are your basic things that you are working on and how do you execute on the ground. And most importantly, whether your team is with you or not. General may be saying anything, but is the infantry is with you or not? That is the key. So that's the whole story, and thank you very much.
In case anyone has a question, we'll be happy to take one question. And the rest are welcome to carry it on offline.
Myself, Rishabh Gupta. I just wanted to ask, how do you bring buyers, influencer, and financer on board? How do you bring buyers, influencers, and financer on board for final buying?
Look, the key is that is where there is a lot of persistence, perseverance is required. No, it is like when you have a challenge, you break it into few, you identify the challenge for each one of them, then you combine the problem and then sort it out what is left. So generally what happens is, most importantly in most of the cases, like typical Hindu family or any other family, is that the influencer and financer don't go well, as usual. We see a star serial every day. So, but the key is, how do we bring them together? How do at some stage we mitigate? In most of the cases, the buyer is standing aside. He can neither side with the influencer nor with the financer, because the poor man is poor man. So the key is, how do you manage this gap? And that happens when you mitigate the differences between the two. Most of the cases, it's a give and take. So there is an individual discussion with the influencer, because her demands are sky high, because she's not worried about the price. Financer is worried only about the price and everything else. So how do you individually sort it out, like it happens in any discussion? Why are you looking at 20 crore property, 16 crore? 12 crore will give you same amenities, same business, same. And the financer, sir, this is the best thing that is possible. Why do you want to go? Don't go below that. So these are the things, look at this opportunity, and then we have to show him the financer respect, because the price will increase if you don't buy now. So these are the general tactics you apply, but you must know what are the underlying factors. Until and unless you know, you cannot build this story. And and as you see, the conversion rate is what we have taken a lot of pride in taking it to 3.5%. So out of 100 people coming, and we took it from 2.6 to 3.5, and we're taking so much pride in that. But we have a long way to go. This means that out of 100 people coming, only 2.5% buy. And we have increased it to 3.5, and the next year goal is 4%. So long way to go. That is why out of 100, only 4 happen, and that too gives us 100% growth. That's the key.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Sir, to thank you, may I please welcome on stage Mr. Ebenezer. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for sir. I'm sure he'll be more than happy to take your questions a little later when we break for our networking lunch break. But for now, I'd like to thank sir for his presence. Thank you so very much. As I thank the gentlemen, I'd like to request all of you to be all set for our next session where we will be discussing on how to prioritize micro markets with superior segmentization, optimize costs, and of course, as we optimize these costs, I'd like to invite on stage somebody who has an experience of over 3 decades when it comes to brand strategizing. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the man who truly undertook the difficult task of building data and insights from ground up, covering over 6 lakh villages, 8,000 towns and 80,000 neighborhoods of the country. This